All right, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about how much control do you have in the match. And this is going to be a a 101, a 201, and a 301 lesson because the answers vary. The answers change as you get better. Um, and the interesting thing about this is the higher you go, the less control you have over the match. The poorer a player you are, the more control you have. And I'm going to explain that, right? So take a moment, spend your social digital currency. It only takes 2 seconds. Press like, subscribe, share. If you like the video, share it with people because then you're going to help everybody out, right? Also, you might want to check out Tennis Strategy 101. I'm currently editing Tennis Strategy 201. All right, now with that out of the way, let's dig into Tennis Strategy 101. All right, now you're a newish player. You're a 2-5. Just becoming a 3-0. You're just starting to play matches. There's so much in your control because the other player doesn't really have much offense. So it's really imperative on you to get the ball up and over the net. If you are hitting the ball in the net, you can actually control that by hitting it much higher and farther. If you fail to do that, that is inside your control. And so, that's the first thing you need to do. 70% of all errors go in the net. So, one thing I teach people from the beginning of the time they first start playing is your first job is to get the ball up and over. And we don't even say net because if you say net, then you think about net and then you hit in the net. So then the net starts to feel 6 feet tall. So we get the ball over the net. And I don't ever shame anybody for hitting a ball long. Never. All right. The second job of the player is to try to keep the ball cross court because you get more length that way, right? Straight ahead, the court is 78 feet. On the diagonal, it's 82 and a half feet. You get 4.5 more feet to hit into, right? The thing about the net being lower in the middle is actually not necessarily true because from the side of the court, the net's actually farther away. So a down the line shot is actually safer in terms of the net. So, but the length of the court is a big deal because you can make more shots. So if you're hitting down the line too much, the other thing about hitting cross court is you run less. All right, so those just going to be very general. You are in control of these types of things, and if you're not, you need a lesson. So coaches, if your players are hitting in the net and or they're not able to hit cross court, then sell them a lesson. Tell them, I need to teach you how to hit over the net, and I need to teach you how to hit cross court. Lots and lots and lots and lots of lessons to new players that way, right? So go make some money. Now, for Tennis 201, now we're talking about, the solid 3-0 player who's been playing a couple of years and they've got some experience. They probably have the 50% win percentage, maybe a little higher, especially if they're a sandbagger, especially if they're really a 3-5 who plays down. But we're not going to talk about that too much. So, so now those players are going to start to have actually a little bit less control over the match because now they're playing against other people who also have experience and aren't hitting the ball in the net as much and are hopefully hitting cross court if they have a brain in their head. So, so that means that they're less likely, the other people are less likely to hit in the net and hit down the line needlessly and create an awesome opportunity for you to get them to run. So this is where, in order to assert a little bit more control over the match, you need to have a strategy. So in Tennis Strategy 201, we get into, all right, what is your A game? Where are you most likely to be successful? Are you a power player? Do you pressure time and space? Do you pressure movement? Do you disrupt rhythm? or do you run and counterpunch and keep every ball cross court, right? So some of those are pretty. So the first two, the first one and the last one are actually very simple to play. The other three take a little more thinking and a little more skill development. But I'm a big favor of skill development. So when you're playing in a way that you're comfortable, then you are going to have more control over the match than if you didn't, right? But let's say you play an equal opponent. If you play an equal opponent, then and they have a game strategy and they're able to execute that, more than 50% of the time, and you don't have a game strategy, then it's however good they are minus 100, right? So if they're 60% at executing their strategy, then you're 40% at your strategy. So it's a balance, right? So the more weight you can put on your side with playing out of a particular style that suits you, then that's a good thing, right? Because if you are 6'6" and 275 pounds, then you probably should not be playing a movement game, right? You should probably be a power player. Or come into the net, you should be pressuring time and space, right? But if you are 5'2" and 115 pounds, right? Or 4'11" and 98 pounds, then you are probably not going to be a power player. You most likely are not going to pressure time and space, but there's a good chance that you can pressure movement. There's a good chance that you can disrupt rhythm. There's a really good chance that you can counterpunch all day long and just run and run and run forever, right? So part of it is about your physique. Part of it is about your mentality. That's a really important thing. So, pick a style that works with your physicality, that works with your mindset, how you like to play. Some people really like to solve problems and play chess out there. Other people like to keep it simple. I mean, they're blessed with all this power and they don't want to think too hard. So they hit the big serve out wide and then they go for their big forehand to the other side and force an error and get the occasional winner. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, some players through the years have been really quick about getting that ball one more time, right? I mean, go watch a Jennifer Capriati match, right? Her game was almost 100% predicated on power. And so she didn't have to think a lot between points. She did, that point's over. She gets the ball. She steps up to the line. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go, right? So play that way. You can play fast if you don't have to think too hard about what you're going to do next. If you're playing the pressure, time, and space game, you're going to have to vary your tactics a little bit. And so you might have to plan a little bit more. Pressuring movement is maybe a little more simple, right? Disrupting rhythm takes a little more thought because you have to eliminate shots that your opponent times really well, and you have to add shots that they don't time well. So you have to sort of self-examine there a little bit, all right? But once you get to that 3-0 level with experienced players, you now no longer are going to have matches where you are 100% in control. But the exception are those magical days when all of a sudden you're just on. I mean, I had a 3-week period of time where I was just zoning out for 3 full weeks, and I was playing people who should have been able to get 3 or 4 or more games on me, but I was bageling them. I was beating them 0-0, and just it was like this amazing time where I'm hitting winning returns and first shot winners and aces and first shot winners off the the S+1 ball. So you can have these periods of time where just everything's clicking and you're very close to controlling 100% of the points, but that's not all the time. It's not sustainable. All right. So then we go to 301, and now we're talking about 4.0 players and above. And really what we're really talking about is 4, 5, and 5.0. And that's where you are going to have much fewer days where you're 100% in control, because that other player has weapons and they're going to use their weapons. So they're going to have a big flat serve, or they're going to have a big kick serve or a slice serve or something. They're going to have a serve that does damage, and they might have a big forehand, or they might have a big net game, or they might be incredibly fast on the court and they use that as their weapon. So, finding a place to attack someone who's incredibly fast can be really difficult. So you're not going to be able to win a high percentage of points. You're going to have a lot of balls that come back that you're not used to. So as you go, so at first, you have this feeling like, you're just getting started and it's all about you, because you have to really reduce your errors. And if you just reduce your errors, you're going to beat a lot of people that don't. That's tennis strategy 101. Stop the leaky boat, right? So you can set sail and make it to the other side. Tennis strategy 201 is start to have a game plan, right? Your leaky boat, it doesn't leak as much, so you're pretty confident. Now you have to set sail in the direction you want to go. So you have to have a plan. You have to have a course set out for how you're going to win that match. You can also begin to, have a mid-match change in strategy. So, think about somebody, in a sailboat, and all of a sudden the wind shifts, right? So the captain of the boat, says, all right, now we got to do this, because all of a sudden now the wind's going that way, and then it's going to shift again. So they change what they're doing. So you come out on a match and you realize, this person really likes my favorite shot that I like to hit, and they hit something better back. Okay, what's my second favorite shot? What's my second favorite strategy? And a lot has been said. It's really, I think, important to be determined enough to make your A game work. So don't give up easily. It's important to realize that, you might have to be down 4-1 or even 5-love before you realize, okay, this is not working. If you're down 4-1, 2 breaks, and it's just looking terrible, the first thing you should do is you should say, am I executing? Am I playing well enough? Raise your game first. But if you're playing your game well, but you're just getting your rear end handed to you, then it's time to switch. I generally tell people, if you're down 2 breaks in the first set, then you might want to consider a strategy change. Or if you've lost a set and you're down a break in the second, then that's a good time to think about going to your B game. Who knows? Maybe if you're down 3-love really fast, maybe you shift then. The thing is, the first question is, am I executing? Because if you're not executing, then start executing. Because it doesn't matter if you go to game plan B if you're not executing, because what are you going to do then? Right? So, so you start to play people who have a game plan out, and the player that has a game plan has an advantage over the player that doesn't. All right. So now you shift to your game plan that you believe matches up with what the other player's weaknesses are. And this is where, as you go along, so now back up to 301, right? So you do scouting. The further you go along, the more you're looking for minute relative weaknesses in another player's game. So I'll give you, for instance, one of my players was playing a kid who we knew was really tough, very good at the net, and his backhand volley was world class. It was really a great volley. If you hit a ball to his backhand volley, he is going to stay on offense, and most of the time he's just going to finish the point now. Boom, winner, right? So, I mean, he was great with that thing. And he had a very good overhead. He had an overhead that I'm sure a lot of college players wish they had. So he wasn't really easy to lob. But the interesting thing is, what we figured out from watching him play is that if he had a high forehand volley, he sort of pushed it. So it was the least offensive shot out of all of them. It wasn't a bad shot. He just didn't have the ability to put the point away immediately. All right. So we would call that a relative weakness, because, if you go to the backhand, that's certain, you're certain, 90, 95%, that point's over. Right. And then you go to the overhead and you're going to lose 80% of those points easily, if not more. But you go to the forehand and it's a much more of a 50-50 proposition. So anyway, unfortunately, my player did not listen to me on this. He was one of those players who doesn't really listen really well. But late in the match, he was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, coach, you were right. Give me a break." So he started to, hit his first passing shot up high to the forehand, which really seems counterintuitive, right? Because, normally the normal conventional wisdom is that passing shots should be low, but then you go low to his forehand and he makes nice angles. But up here, he pushes it. So he would go up there, get a weaker reply, and then he'd have an open court to hit the second one and successfully pass. Yeah. So I don't remember the outcome of that match. I think my player might have lost it because he was just a little too late to start executing that particular tactic. So this is how it works, though, going onward. As you go forward into your strategy, you then dial in your tactics, because you might have a certain strategy, and then let's say you go into a strategy and you have anywhere from 3 to 5 tactics. I don't recommend more than 5 tactics because it's hard to keep all of that in your mind. But 5 seems to be manageable. 3 is minimal, because you need to be able to have some differences in how you play. So if I'm wanting to pressure time and space, then I will stand closer to the baseline, right? And occasionally step in to a ball. That's tactic number 1. Tactic number 2 would be that I'm going to approach the net on every second serve that I can. And tactic number 3 will be that I'm going to serve and volley, right? But if my opponent's particularly good on return, I might serve and volley less. I might serve and stay back and wait for a short ball and then come in, just to throw that off. So different, you can take different tactics based on what, but if my opponent does not return very well, I might serve and volley on first and second serve. These things are changeable. You have to be able to make the minute tactical changes rather than wholesale strategy changes. All right. If I'm coming to the net often and I'm finding that I'm not winning, I'm pressuring time and space, but my opponent is not bothered with it, then the next strategy that I'm going to employ for me is that I'm going to disrupt their rhythm, because I like to spin the ball. I like to spin it differently. And so I like to get them out of their game. And then once I've done that, then I might return to coming to the net again, or, and pressuring time and space again, because now I've got them junked up. But sometimes I've realized, oh, no, can't go back to that. I have to continue with junking them up. And then worst case scenario, if it comes down to it and things just aren't working that well that day, or maybe the conditions are weird, maybe it's like a super windy day or whatever, then it comes down to just running around and making one more shot. It's not my preferred way to win. I know that that's going to be a difficult day at the office. But Craig O'Shaughnessy says you're the second most important player on the court. So, and that kind of goes back to Bill Tilden from 1925, match play and the spin of the ball, right? Find out what your opponent's favorite shot is and never give it to them. And then find out what their least favorite shot is and use that when you need it. Those are my paraphrases. But the point being that the higher you go, the more of an effect that your opponent has. And what you want to do is if you start the match 50-50, if you can diminish one of their main ways they take control of the point, now you can go to 51-49. And if you can augment a way that you are winning your points and increase that, you can go to 53-47. Right. And if you can reduce one of the ways you're losing your points, you can go to 54-46. And then this makes a match a blowout, right? You can win convincingly the closer you get to 55% of the points won. But when you're playing truly at your level, you're going to find it difficult to win, overall 60% of the points. It's not really going to happen, or you're playing at the wrong level. So anyway, how much effect can you have? Okay. You can have 100% effect early on when you're first getting started, because you just have to plug all the holes in your boat so it doesn't sink, right? As you go on, your opponent, I just got a message that I'm going to be speaking to the National Collegiate Scholarship Association coming up on April 25th. So if you're a high school player or high school players, let's get you in on that. So that's going to be April 25th in the afternoon after school. And send me an email. I'll make a comment or contact me in direct message, and I'll get you information on that. All right, back to the talk. All right, so, and then every once in a while, you're just going to be zoned out and you feel like you have pretty close to 100% control of the match. And I say, go with it. But, don't expect that to happen all the time. It's the management of the little details that is going to be the biggest thing that you can do to, change who wins the point by 1%. By 2%, by 3%. Dr. Cheryl Calder, who's the originator of the first visual training PhD and works with a lot of professional athletes and teams, says that her goal is to help people improve by 1% in their decision making. So if you improve your decision making and the way you line up your tactics with your strategies by 1% or more, that's going to have a dramatic impact on how things go. And when you look at top matches, the most competitive matches that are so thrilling, I can guarantee you it's less than 1% of the points that were the most influential, right? Because, there was a break point here and a game point there and a set point here and a match point there, or, a particular swing point that changed the momentum that had the most bearing on the outcome of that match. So that could have been tactical. It could have been the concentration of the player. It's not often the fitness thing. We talked about that in the last thing, because those players are ready to play for practically 9 hours if they have to, because they can make it through these 5-hour matches, which is crazy. All right. Well, thanks for watching. You spend your social digital currency. Look at the contents down below. Check out my books on Amazon. I have some courses on CoachTube. Thank you to the people who have reviewed Tennis Strategy 101. So that is one of those is Heather Shelby Gage. Thank you, Heather. And I'm going to have to look up the name of the other guy that did that. But thank you. Those reviews make a huge difference. So I thank you for that. And that helps get the word out about tennis and grows the game. Thanks for watching.